Hello, Dig Nation. It's Stanfield Gray, your fearless host of Southpod, Rise of a Region. Southpod is the South's top tech podcast where executives, founders, funders, and ecosystem supporters explore what it takes to succeed in the South and beyond. Southpod is produced by Dig South Tech Media. The podcast is pre-recorded and captured in both video and audio. Southpod can be found wherever you download podcasts and is broadcast on Facebook Live and YouTube. New episodes are posted at digsouth.com. Learn more, sign up for our e-news, and keep up with the South's top tech news at digsouth.com. Now on with the show. Hello, Dig Nation. It's Stanfield Gray, your host of Southpod, Rise of a Region. Southpod is the South's top tech podcast where executives, founders, funders, and ecosystem supporters explore what it takes to succeed in the South and beyond. Southpod is produced by Dig South Tech Media. The podcast is pre-recorded and captured in both video and audio. Southpod can be found at digsouth.com, YouTube, and wherever you download podcasts. Learn more, sign up for our e-news, and keep up with the South's top tech news at digsouth.com. Now on with the show. Today, we have one of South Carolina's greatest champions of startups, founders, and tech companies of many stripes, Bob Quinn. As Executive Director of the South Carolina Research Authority, commonly known as SCRA, Bob leads an organization that fuels South Carolina's innovation economy by accelerating technology-enabled growth of academia, entrepreneurship, and industry. The SCRA's impact on the state's economy exceeded $1 billion in 2021. Welcome to Southpod, Bob Quinn. Where do we find you physically located today?
Hey, good morning, Stan. I'm actually working from home today in Summerville, South Carolina. Great to be with you.
Thanks for joining us. So let's just dive right in. Let's dig into the numbers of the Stellar Economic Impact Report. What are some of the highlights and where is the state of South Carolina getting real traction with the innovation economy?
Well, yeah, we are very excited about breaking that $1 billion mark in total economic impact. Our programs support over 5,400 jobs throughout the state, and these are high-paying jobs. The average salary is $74,000, which is 53% higher than the statewide average. In terms of areas of growth, well, the life sciences industry is the fastest growing industry in our state. Another area that we're seeing a lot of traction and where we have some real differentiation is Industry 4.0 and all of the various sub-elements associated with that. Electric vehicles, another area of interest, logistics and the technologies that enable logistics, obviously is an issue that has worldwide ramifications. So a lot of exciting things happening on multiple fronts.
Yeah, it's hard. You can't turn on any business report without hearing some comments on the supply chain in particular, and transportation. I understand one highlight last year was Proterra. We welcomed Proterra to Dig South 4 or 5 years ago, and they recently listed on the NASDAQ. Is there a backstory to that?
No, there's a great backstory. So when we recruited them in from Colorado back in 2010, I believe, they came with a promise of rather substantial funding from a VC. When they landed in Greenville, for a whole variety of reasons, that funding did not come through. And if not for SCRA, as well as Venture South and a handful of high net worth individuals stepping up and providing the funding, the company would have folded. They had a very, very short runway at the time. Fast forward, they are now the largest manufacturer of electric buses in the country. But they're not just buses. They're a multifaceted organization dealing with a variety of electric vehicles, as well as technology to enable electric vehicles, such as charging stations, and batteries, et cetera. They currently have over 500 employees in Greenville area. They just announced that they'll be developing a battery factory in the Spartanburg area. There'll be another couple hundred jobs. We're very excited. And I had the honor of actually being with them as they rang the closing bell at NASDAQ the day that they were listed. So there's nothing more exciting as a founder to be ringing that bell. And I'm just thrilled to share the moment with them.
Let's touch on the importance of funding for a moment. So the SCRA was chartered in 1983 as a public nonprofit corporation, and it fuels the innovations economy through 4 distinct programs. So first, how does the SCRA receive funding? And then let's touch on what those programs look like and what do they do for South Carolinians?
Yeah. So our revenue sources are multiple. We own and or manage over 1.35 million square feet of office and laboratory space through one of those programs, which is called SC Facilities. So certainly revenue from those tenants is a major source. We have a very strong balance sheet, so returns on our reserves is another. As an investor, and SCRA does not invest directly, but we do it through our affiliate, SC Launch Inc. Our staff does all of the due diligence and the coaching, the preparation, but the ultimate investment decisions are made by the board of SC Launch Inc. Well, through those investments in companies like Proterra, we increasingly are realizing exits from those. So that's another source. We do some contract work, such as we run the SCRA program for South Carolina. That's the established program to stimulate cooperative or competitive research. But one of the major funding sources is called the Industry Partnership Fund. And those that contribute to this fund receive a 1-for-1 credit on their estate tax obligation. And then companies that contribute at a certain level are eligible for a variety of marketing benefits, thereby enabling them to potentially deduct that contribution off of their federal return. So as such, those companies really receive a 4 times benefit. The 1-for-1 state tax obligation, the writing off on their federal return, the marketing benefits, and yet also able to direct their funding towards an organization with, as you said, over $1 billion impact on the state's economy. You asked about the 4 programs I mentioned, SC Facilities. Another is SC Academic Innovations, under which we provide funding and support for translational research at the state's universities and colleges, as well as providing funding and support for university-based startups. Under SC Industry Solutions, we facilitate and fund formal relationships between and among industry, academia, and startups. And then you mentioned SC Launch. That program is dedicated solely to supporting technology-based startups, and we do that through providing coaching, funding of grants, all geared towards making these companies more investable. And then, as I say, often the SC Launch Inc. is the first institutional investment that these companies receive after, say, friends and family. We don't end right at that point of the initial tranche. We then will work with them all geared towards receiving follow-on funding, and will often participate in those subsequent rounds through a syndicate. As a matter of fact, speaking of follow-on funding, Stan, over the last 15 years, we've provided over $53 million in grants and investments, and that's led to now over $2.2 billion in follow-on funding from VCs, angels, et cetera. Matter of fact, over $720 million just last fiscal year.
That's a huge infusion of capital for the state and for startups. So we've touched on, SC Academic Innovations, SC Facilities, SC Industry Solutions, and the SC Launch Mentors. Those are the 4 programs. Fantastic. So at Dig South, we've been very fortunate to have the support of the SCRA each year at Dig South Tech Summit. We're now rolling into our 10th anniversary this May 11th through 13th at the College of Charleston TD Arena. We like to think we've helped provide a valuable platform for startups to pitch in front of an audience of investors, tech executives, and other leaders, particularly many that are supported by SC Launch. So you mentioned that, the follow-on capital, how, the early seed and early stage rounds. What does that kind of ecosystem of capital look like in South Carolina relative to the Southeast? And what could we do to support that further? So angels, VCs, private equity, and other investors.
Yeah, it is growing. We could always use more capital, but over the last few years, we've had new firms form and are growing at a rapid pace, like Good Growth Capital out of Charleston. We've had established firms that have come in and established a beachhead in South Carolina, like BIP Capital and Cultivation Capital. So we've come a long way, but we have a long way to go. We're excited about a new program that's going to be bringing in a substantial amount of capital, not only into South Carolina, but throughout the country. And that's called the State Small Business Credit Initiative, or SSBCI. The initial SSBCI was funded under the Small Business Jobs Act of 2010 as part of the recovery program. And that provided $1.3 billion to states. And the states have had and now have a lot of latitude on how they can deploy those funds, either through a venture program and or a credit program providing loans to small businesses. The impact of that program was substantial. And as such, under the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, Congress put SSBCI 2.0 now at $10 billion focused on that program. Matter of fact, the proposals were due February 11th from the state to the U.S. Treasury, and then Treasury will now work with those states individually to get those programs up and running. South Carolina is eligible for approximately $100 million under that program, and we'll be dedicating half of that to credit programs, but half to venture programs. And there's a requirement for a one-for-one match from outside sources, from private sources. So we're talking about $100 million of new capital flowing in to South Carolina, and other states throughout the South are equal to or greater to that amount. So there's going to be a tremendous amount of new capital flowing into new businesses over the next few years under that program.
And will those funds be distributed and managed by the SCRA?
The lead for South Carolina is called JEDA, the Jobs Economic Development Authority. We are working closely with JEDA and still to be determined in terms of what percentage would be managed under SC launch in that regard. We're a somewhat unusual organization, and we're working with Treasury to see how we fit within their current paradigm. But we're optimistic that a portion of those funds will flow to us, thereby allowing us to provide, in particular, follow-on funding to those initial tranches that we provided. And so that's going to be a real fuel to supercharge the engine.
Hey there, Dig Nation. It's Stanfield Gray here with big news. The 10th anniversary of Dig South Tech Summit is coming this May 11th through the 13th to the College of Charleston TD Arena. Check out details at digsummit.com. Think emerging technology, scalable business, digital marketing, fintech, Web3, crypto, NFTs, health tech, and much more. Come check it out. Meet innovators, entrepreneurs, executives, founders, and other leaders in the tech space. Have a blast in Charleston. It's beautiful in May. Come check it out at digsummit.com. That's digsummit.com. Now, back to Southpod. So will a company then apply through JEDA, or can they apply directly? How does it work?
Yeah, the JEDA program will actually be a fund of funds. And so the individual fund managers would be managing the investments themselves. JEDA is just coordinating the overall program.
Okay, I see. So there's a lot of moving parts. There's been a new infusion of capital into the ecosystem for the state. You know, what could the leadership in South Carolina, both political and industry leadership, do more or possibly less of to both support startup formation, also attract software companies to the region, and just kind of generally support that ecosystem?
Yeah, the South Carolina Department of Commerce last summer, as of last summer, has a new secretary, Harry Lightsey. And literally from his confirmation hearings, he sent a very strong message that he wants to be far more aggressive in the recruitment and retaining of technology-based companies. And as such, we are working closely with him and his staff, as well as others throughout the state, to put together a set of recommendations on new legislation for incentives to have us be more competitive with our neighboring states in that regard. We have done a tremendous job over the last decade in attracting and retaining world-class manufacturers like Boeing and Volvo and Mercedes vans, et cetera. And that has really done a phenomenal job in terms of our overall economy. Where we can improve is exactly where Secretary Lightsey is focusing his energy, and that is focusing on more technology-based companies in the IT space and life sciences, et cetera. So we're excited to partner with him in that regard.
Do you anticipate opportunities from, kind of stemming from those advanced manufacturers, let's say in artificial intelligence, autonomous vehicles, more EV development?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mentioned some of those in our opening remarks in terms of those areas that are particularly growing. The Industry 4.0 area is a great example where we're working with those major manufacturers to introduce and to implement those various elements of Industry 4.0 to go beyond the traditional manufacturing, to have digital twins, for example, the introduction of AI, virtual reality and augmented reality, and predictive analytics, predictive maintenance, and on and on. So we have a strong foundation within our universities, particularly Clemson and USC, but not exclusively. We, SCRA, are funding some major programs in that regard. And a number of our partnerships that we facilitate between industry and academia and startups are focused in that Industry 4.0 area.
All the recent buzz has been around, generally an umbrella term of Web3, which could include metaverse, NFTs, crypto, a lot of blockchain projects. Are you seeing an increase in those types of companies looking for funding, or are there discussions around that, how to support that type of ecosystem?
Yes, it's still early days in a lot of that, but we have a major blockchain initiative that's statewide. That's positioning us to be a real leader in that area, as we have on a monthly basis companies pitching to us to either become a member company, part of our overall program, or to go before the SC launching board to become a portfolio company. Many of them have blockchain underpinning their particular vertical and their particular technology. A lot of AI, of course. With regard to NFTs, not so much at this point that we're personally involved in, but I know of others in the state that have been. So yeah, we're very much positioning ourselves to be on the front end of that, but a little too early to see exactly how that will play out and what our true role will be going forward.
On a local level, kind of bringing it home, you see towns like Charleston, building the Charleston Tech Center and an innovation district in partnership with MUSC and Next in Greenville. Are you seeing some, inklings of new projects underway like that, or are there things that some of the smaller towns could do or could learn from, Charleston, Columbia, and Greenville to kind of expand what they're doing?
Yeah, I'm excited about the overall ecosystem and how it's evolving. I've been in this position for 5.5 years, and the growth over that time period has been remarkable. So there's new leadership at Next. Eric Weissman came from Cincinnati, where he was involved in Centrifuge. There's new leadership at the Harbor Acceleration Center in Charleston. Grady Johnson, who's a longtime entrepreneur and longtime publisher of publications throughout North and South Carolina, is the new executive director there. There's, as you mentioned, the Innovation District. In Columbia, there's GrowCo, which is an organization founded by founders and run by founders, which is really establishing some great traction. Significantly, the chambers of commerce of Charleston, Greenville, and Columbia just last month launched a Minority Business Accelerator, which is a year-long program. The first cohorts have been named. Actually, Greenville's had that for about a decade now. But thanks to a grant from the Bank of America, Charleston and Columbia are now establishing those programs. We're honored to be participating using our time, treasure, and talent in supporting those programs, and we think that they're very, very important. In terms of other parts of the state, Myrtle Beach just opened a great new incubator. Matter of fact, we have, depending on how you define them, some 47 incubators throughout the state. And so we make a conscious decision to not just focus on those major metropolitan areas, but to support all of the state. And those incubators play a vital role in that ecosystem. And a couple of years ago, we established the South Carolina Business Incubator Association to bring those different parties together to share best practices, et cetera. That now is a separate 501c3 that is run by the members.
So what's upcoming for the SCRA? What should we know about?
Well, we're excited about an upcoming event that is our annual summit. And I say annual with quotes around it because this will be the first time in 3 years, thanks to the pandemic, that we're coming together face to face. And I know Stan, running your conference every year, you can relate to the challenges associated with that. And I thought you all did a great job of establishing a hybrid event this past year. We, over the last couple of years, have done a series of smaller events rather than one big summit. But this year, April 28th, we're back and very excited about that. It'll be at the USC Alumni Center in Columbia, and it's April 28th. And we have the Lieutenant Governor who will be providing our awards, such as Company of the Year and Founder of the Year. We have the aforementioned Secretary Lightsey as a speaker, as well as just the theme of it is scale up. And we have a number of founders who have successfully scaled one or more companies, sharing best practices in that, as well as a variety of investors giving sessions on pitches, et cetera, et cetera. So it's going to be a jam-packed agenda, and one that we can't wait to get back and see everyone and have that face-to-face interaction. We'll also be bringing the state's various investors together. We want to be more concerted about that and bring that group together on a regular basis so we can leverage each other's strengths in a powerful way.
What's the best way for people to find out more about the summit and to reach you personally?
Well, SCRA.org, our website has all the information on the summit. And my email is bob.quinn@scra.com. Oh, I'm sorry, .org.
Well, thank you, Bob Quinn, for joining us today on South Pod, Rise of a Region.
Thank you. My pleasure. Take care, Stan.
Thank you for joining us today on South Pod, Rise of a Region. South Pod, the first and foremost podcast created to tell the story of tech innovation in the American South. South Pod is hosted by yours truly, Stanfield Gray, and produced by Dig South Tech Media. Visit digsouth.com for details and join our membership group at dignation.co. And don't forget, join Dig Nation today and grab your free badge to Dig South Tech Summit, where leading brands meet the smartest, most scalable startups. Dig South Tech Summit will be held May 11th through the 13th in beautiful Charleston, South Carolina at the College of Charleston TD Arena. Visit digsouthtechsummit.com to check out speakers, sponsors, and other details. Till next time, I'm Stanfield Gray, your host of South Pod, Rise of a Region. Thank you for joining us.